Okay, you guys seen this new game that just came out called Black Myth Wukong?
And now we turn to a smash hit that has captivated many globally. The video game titled Black Myth Wukong. From game consoles to faster and more advanced computer hardware, Wukong has triggered a buying spree for more gaming-related components in China.
Well, I think there's some pretty evil things going on in this game. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, check it out. It's actually kind of well made. It's an action RPG game, kind of like God of War if you played those type of games. And I got a problem with a lot of games like that anyway, but we'll talk about those later. So this one was created by Game Science Studio. It's a Chinese developer. This game was founded by former Tencent employees. Tencent's a big Chinese company led by this guy named Feng Ji. The trailer, which you're looking at right now, showcased stunning visuals, fluid combat, a deep narrative. It's been an instant viral success with millions of views worldwide, all over the place. Everyone's watching this game. It looks like a fun game to play. This game was inspired again by a 16th century Chinese novel called Journey to the West. And the players control a character named Sun Wukong, also known as the Monkey King. He's a mythical figure with supernatural powers. The game reimagines the Monkey King's journey, blending mythological elements with innovative gameplay. And you can look at the graphics of this game. It's very good. It looks like a movie. I mean, it looks like one of those really good cartoon movies from like Pixar or Disney or something like that. So the game is praised for its authentic representation of Chinese culture. We'll come back to that later too. And widespread anticipation, especially in China, which is a big market. It's like 1.2 billion people out there, where it is seen as a breakthrough for domestic gaming industry because Chinese people haven't really been known for video game making, and this is considered their breakthrough. Recognized as one of the most anticipated upcoming games, and Game Science has since released additional gameplay trailers and updates, maintaining high levels of interest. So they're just riding this buzz right now. The game has high expectations, meaning pressure on the developers to deliver, because it looks great for the people that are actually trying it out right now, but maybe when it's released and the gameplay might get a little sluggish. There's always a bug with every new game release. And if you play Call of Duty, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so there you have it, guys. That is a little summary of the game Black Myth Wukong that is just taking the gaming community by storm right now. And it's important we look at this in a biblical way, which is what I'm about to break down now. Okay, so first thing, these type of mythical games with people using supernatural abilities is something that is widely accepted in video games and movies as normal, but we know biblically that there is supernatural abilities listed in the Bible. Paul talks about spiritual warfare all the time, and Jesus also mentioned that there is a place that we cannot see where it's described as warfare. So it's kind of like this Black Myth Wukong world here with supernatural abilities and war constantly going on. So you can see how the inspiration for these games look like they're almost rooted from the Bible. And the Bible mentions mythological creatures as well when it talks about Nephilim mating with earthly women and creating these demigods, these half man, half fallen angel creatures, which were worshipped, and they're called, men of renown in the Bible, specifically because they had godlike abilities, that had supernatural powers, and they were most likely worshipped by the people around them. And you can see drawing of these figures in almost every corner in the world because they spread out everywhere. They had mythological supernatural powers. So the root of these type of video games based off of the Bible, but they'll never tell you that because they just know it as some old ancient Chinese folklore. But we know that these Nephilim were absolutely everywhere based on what the Bible says. So by playing a video game like this at, say, a young age, say you're 10 or 11 years old, you might really think that these mythological creatures are, you might end up not believing actual spiritual warfare because you've already associated the two, and one of them hasn't been real to you because there was just some video games. There could be some chance of confusion that when you play video games like this. Okay, another danger of video games like this is they tend to reinforce polytheistic ideals, talking about multiple gods. And this is something we see in the Old Testament as the people of Israel, as their relationship with God was always up and down because at some point they love God, they worship God, and then they'll conquer some kind of land, and then they'll end up worshiping whatever those people in that land were worshiping, and then God ends up punishing them for it. So it was just a cycle going on. And you can see that everywhere the Israelites would go to conquer, those people had their own gods they were worshiping, right? Some of them worshiped the sun god, the moon, sands, the earth. Some were creating statues out of wood, all type of things. They were creating gods to worship. And when you play a video game like this, it reinforces those ideals because you can see inside this video game there are multiple gods. There is this guy who's known as the Monkey King with supernatural ability, and he talks about referencing some people as God inside this game. But these type of video games will continue to reinforce what the world wants to tell you, like there could be several other gods, or there could be no god at all, which doesn't even make sense. Another thing these video games reinforce is like immortality, using the supernatural ability for some kind of selfish inner gain, for lack of a better word. So what do I mean by that is there's a tendency for the way history is twisted, even though we know it's based from the Bible when it talks about mythological creatures. Even ancient Greeks had mythological creatures from Poseidon to Zeus, and they tend to twist those guys as heroes. Meanwhile, the Bible tells us these Nephilim and these half demigods were actually very evil. Well, they were not friendly by any means. Those people were evil from the beginning. Yeah, so you gotta play a lot of mental gymnastics to kind of make it okay for you to play adventure games like this, even though for young Christians, I think it can reinforce some worldly things that is quite sneaky. And the last thing I want to mention about video games like this is they tend to create an earth worship, this like creation worship, where we worship the things that were created by God. You've seen this. There's people that worship trees and wind, all types of stuff. This actually still happens today. Games like this can reinforce this creation style worship, and it's very dangerous, again, for young Christians who are the audience of this game maker. As a parent myself, I wouldn't let my son play this game until his faith feels like it's strong enough to withstand and understand the difference of what he's using, because at a young age it can really change the way you are learning and forming your ideals. But as an adult, you can separate those things. Not to say that all adults can do whatever you want, that it doesn't affect you. I think these games can affect you. If you start on this path as an adult, you play all these video games back to back, it can affect you in the long run because just sheer volume alone. This video game is dangerous for all of us, but again, if you are in the faith and you feel like your faith is strong enough to discern what this video game is, and you want to, say, test it out for coding purposes or whatever your job requires, then of course you're going to be able to do that. But if you are a parent like myself and 10-year-old son wants to play this video game, you kind of go, hey, don't think you're ready for this video game yet. Give it some time. Why don't you play something else that isn't including these type of ideals in it? What do you guys think? Am I overreacting on this, or is this game low-key kind of evil?